What is going on, guys? Welcome back to more games, and today we are once again back with the Boomerang factory coaster build series. Now, in episode 1 I mentioned how my coaster was kind of doing a little bit of a weird thing at the end of its track. So it will go through the coaster layout perfectly fine there and back, but once it gets back to the station, instead of it coming back in, being grabbed by the little tray thing that grabs it and then being slowly brought back into the station, which it's supposed to do, what actually happens is it comes back in, comes up here, gets grabbed by the tray, and then when it comes back down, for whatever reason, the tray lets go, and then it comes back through, and then back once again, and then it gets brought all the way up to the top of the tower here, and then slammed back down into the brake run, which isn't supposed to happen. That is something that's gone wrong with this coaster. I didn't explain it too well in episode 1, so I'm going to show you exactly what's happening, because a lot of people were getting confused and trying to tell me that this is what the coaster is supposed to do. Just because of the way that I worded it, it wasn't their fault that they misunderstood what I was saying. But I'll show you what mine's doing, and then I'll make another coaster and show you what it's supposed to do. So if we just click test on this real quick, speed this up so this goes through the run real quick. So of course what it normally does, it comes up here to begin with. This is where it gets its speed for the track. Then it goes off as usual. Pretty straightforward. Everything's going to plan as of right now. Goes up the second lift hill, drops it. We're going to slow it down in just a second so we can see what happens. So okay, here we go. So it's coming back into the station, right? What should happen is it should get caught here by this little tray thing on the back and be brought back slowly, as it's happening right now, into the station. But what happens here is this little thing on the back lets go and the brakes don't work. And as you can see, it goes all the way past. So at this point it should have braked. It should have stopped. It should be getting ready for the next load of guests to come on, but for whatever reason it goes past the station. I cannot work out for the life of me why it does this, but what it's going to do now is bring this all the way back up to the top of the lift hill, as if it was kind of like doing a round 2, going for like the second round on the coaster. But what actually is going to happen, it's going to lift it all the way up to the top here, and then it's going to slam it full pelt back into the brakes. And then that's going to be the end of the circuit, which is wrong. It shouldn't be doing this. This would hurt in real life. If the coaster did this to you in real life, you'd probably end up in the hospital, because this thing goes like 50 miles an hour and then bam, into the brakes. That should not be happening. So just to show you guys what should be happening, I'm going to quickly see if there's a pre-built version of this somewhere in here. So this is, here we go. So this is a pre-built one. It's pretty damn ugly, but it's let's spin this around so you guys don't see the actual build over there. Okay, so I'm gonna show you what should be happening with this brake. So let's fast forward this again. So here we go. As usual, it goes up to the top and drops it, and it goes through the thing all the way around once, up to the second one, and then what we want to look at is what it does when it gets back to the station here. So it's going to come through the station up here, and this is going to grab onto it, and then it's going to slowly bring this down into the brakes and stop. Here it comes, and it's going to brake, and it's going to stop right there. So at this point on my coaster, it goes back through a little bit and then back again all the way up the lift hill, slams back down into the brakes, which is completely wrong. It shouldn't be doing that. It's broken. I really don't know how to fix it, because it gets through the circuit completely fine. It's not too slow or anything like that. It goes through completely fine, but for whatever reason, it doesn't like it, and it doesn't stop. The brakes don't seem to work. So there is a definite issue going on with my coaster. I may just have to rebuild this at the end of the day, but I don't really want to have to do that because it's a shame, because this is a really nice layout. But there we go, that's just what's happening at the moment, and I'm gonna try and find a fix. If any of you guys know how to fix this, let me know. because it shouldn't be doing this. But there we go, that's what's happening, and not really much I can do about it right now. But I just wanted to get that out of the way because a lot of people were confused with my explanation in episode 1 about what was kind of happening. So there it is, there's the video just to show you guys. We're going to carry on now, go back into the build video and talk our way through episode 3 of the factory. So here goes. So welcome back to episode 3 of the Boomerang factory. Now in a later episode, I think next episode, we will come up with a better name for the factory that I actually came up with on stream while building this. But hopefully that video at the beginning of this episode really helped you guys understand what I was kind of trying to explain in episode 1. Unfortunately, I didn't really explain it too well in episode 1, so a few people got confused with what I was trying to say with the actual ending of what the ride should look like. But for whatever reason, mine seems to be broken. Like I said, if anyone knows how to fix that, let me know. I would love to get it fixed, but you know, if it doesn't, then it's not really the end of the world. I can just rebuild the coaster and put it back into my building. It should fit. As long as I replicate it pretty much the same, then it should fit back in, no problems. But yeah, there we go. So a little bit of a problem with the coaster, but like I said, not the end of the world. So in today's episode, there's a few more buildings I want to get worked on with the exterior of the factory. So this one that I'm putting on top of the main factory building here is kind of just a little bit more detail to stick out from the top of the factory, because there wasn't really much up here. It was kind of just dead space at this point. It was just a really large open area, and I think it looks better with a little kind of building on top of this funky shape. It's not rectangle. It kind of breaks up the squares that are already in and around the factory. So it was nice to put in another building up here that wasn't just a big rectangle like the actual factory underneath it. So yeah, this little building up here does go through a few little alterations throughout the next couple of episodes. We add and we remove quite a few little things from this building as we build, because that's just the way I build. I add stuff, and then if I don't quite like it, I go back and I remove it and then change it. And yeah, a few little alterations happen to this building up here over the next couple of episodes, which you guys are going to be able to watch, which is really cool. So yeah, like I said, this building up here doesn't really have too much of a purpose. We are going to put some piping and some other bits and pieces onto this building a little bit later on in the series to kind of factory design this a little bit better. But yeah, other than that, that is kind of what that building is for. Okay, so back with this building now, we're just finishing off by putting a few more of these pieces on the roof, so that obviously the roof isn't hollow on this exterior building up the top here. So now that's pretty much done. I think we're going to move on to getting some windows done in just a minute here. Now I will mention that doing windows for a factory this big is a nightmare. You have to kind of design windows that are going to be repeatable over the whole face of the factory that you want to put them on, and obviously they have to look good. If they don't look good, they're just going to make the whole factory design just feel a little bit odd, a little bit strange, and it's not really going to bring anything together. So what you're going to see here is me going through a few little alteration designs of windows, because obviously I wanted to make sure that the window design I got correct the first time before I decided to copy and paste them all over the exterior of this building. So you will see a few little alterations when it comes to windows on this factory. I don't really know what I'm doing right now, just showing a little bit of the other park off during the stream clearly. But yeah, this first design that I went for was kind of with this window that had this rounded piece on the top. I don't know why, I just felt like having a little bit of a rounded window at the top would work quite nicely with the design of the factory, and I think the window that I actually end up going with does have a rounded piece on the top in the end. So I kind of did stick with that generalized design. But this was the first design, and nobody in the live stream liked this window at all. They all said that it didn't look like a factory window, and I was kind of panicking at this point because this was kind of the design that I really wanted to go with when it came to the windows of the factory. I thought this window was going to work really nicely, and then when it turned out that it didn't work at all, I was kind of panicking. And this second window that you can see right now is the finalized design of the window that I decided to go with. So I got 4 of the regular windows and I placed them next to each other and actually used another window piece to kind of add some trim around the exterior of those other windows, and as you can see, I put that nice rounded piece on the top. Now originally the stream didn't like this window design either, but at this point I kind of had to go with this because I didn't have any other designs in mind, and I just felt like once this had been replicated over the whole exterior of the building, it was really going to work out. So I stuck to it and I said, you know what, we're just going to go with this window. If it doesn't work, we'll come back to it and try and redesign again. But I really felt like these windows were kind of in between when it came to the aesthetics. I don't know, I just felt like this window was going to really work, so I went with it and I pasted this all over the side of the window, all over the side of the wall, sorry, and as you can see, it works really nicely. It does now look like a factory that has loads and loads of windows. Now a lot of the people in the live stream were kind of concerned with the amount of windows that were actually on this building. So we did go back at one point and delete every other row of windows to kind of see if that was gonna work a little bit better, but unfortunately that did not look good at all. So we decided to scrap that idea, and later on we actually came up with the idea of rotating a few of the windows so they look closed. So what I did was I went back in and I selected some of the actual window panes and flipped them around so it looked like the windows were closed. Which was really nice because that gave a contrast and it kind of broke up the massive amount of windows that were actually on the exterior of this building. So at this point, 3 sides of the walls are now complete with the windows that we designed for this one. The great thing about this factory is this is the actual factory side of the factory, and the other side of the building on the left hand side is actually going to be the office space. So the office windows are going to look different from the main factory windows. Which is really nice. So we didn't want to use these same windows on the other side of the factory because the other side is the office. So the actual factory windows are going to look completely different to the ones that we decide to use on the factory. So that kind of thing kind of breaks up the repetitiveness of those windows as well. So we were actually having little competitions in the live streams where people would guess how many pieces the build was currently at. I think I guessed like 20,000 at that point, and I was like way off with my guess. I'm really bad at guessing pieces because obviously I'm the one building it, and you don't really count how many pieces you are placing down, especially when it comes to copy and paste and stuff like windows. And these windows have like 10 pieces per window, so yeah, the numbers add up really quickly. So as you can see here, we're actually going through and closing a few of these windows, and like I mentioned before, it really does break up the look of these windows having some of these closed. I don't know what it is, the backs of these windows were kind of wood texture, so they looked really great when they were actually shut. So it was a nice little touch, and people in the stream were happy with the way that it looked once I've done this. I am still yet to complete this because it's so boring. Going through and individually flipping these windows is really boring, especially if you're doing it on live stream and you're trying to entertain people. So that's something I have to go back and do and complete at a later date. We did only get the front side of the buildings done when it comes to flipping those windows, so I still have the back side to complete at this point, and I think the side as well needs to be done. So a lot more windows need to be flipped, but there we go. That was just something we came up with to kind of break up the look of having all those windows, because those windows are really shiny as well. They are really bright and they reflect the light quite nicely when the sun comes up, so to actually have a few of them shut just looks more realistic. Not all those windows would be open in real life, I don't think. So there we go, that's what we decided to do. So we are now back over to the other side of the building, which I mentioned previously is the office. So this is the office side of the factory where the workers that aren't actually working in the factory but the office would be placed, and they have nice bigger, more luxurious looking windows. So these windows are a lot bigger, so office space is lit up really nice from the inside there. So these windows do look a lot more expensive than the actual ones in the main factory. Now the reasoning for this would be that I think this building probably would have been added onto the factory at a later date than the main factory. I feel like the main factory would have been there for probably like 20 or 30 years before this actually got built onto the side. So the actual factory has a lot older style windows, and this office space has a lot more modern looking, more expensive and stronger windows. So that's kind of my explanation for this. Whether that's accurate to what would actually be like on the side of a factory, who knows? I've never worked in a factory, but that's just what I felt this should look like, and I think it works out quite nicely. Obviously, if I'd used the same windows from the other style on the main factory, who knows what it would have looked like. I feel it would have just been a little bit out of place, and I feel this is probably the best design that I could have come up with for the side of this factory. And like I said 20 times already in this video, it just breaks it up. It just breaks it up. At the end of the day, this factory is just a bunch of rectangles, and if I'd used the same windows on all of these buildings, I don't know, I think it would have just been a little bit too repetitive, and would have looked a little bit boring by the end of it. And I think it doesn't look boring, so it's obviously worked out pretty well. You guys will have to let me know in the comment section what you think of these window designs. Obviously there's going to be people that don't like them, there's going to be people that really like them, so I'm always open for constructive criticism. So feel free to comment down below what you think of these windows. I personally really like them, but I built them, so I usually like the stuff that I've built. And if I don't like the stuff that I've built, I usually don't publish it for people to see. So there we go. Maybe I'm a little bit biased when it comes to my own work, but who isn't biased when it comes to their own work? So there we go. So at the moment, as you can see, I'm just adding a few little modern touches to our road here. Now this road that goes down underneath our main factory is kind of like a staff car park. At least that's what I expect this to be if this was real life. So that's why we've got that nice little tunnel that goes underneath there. Like I mentioned in episode 2, we may actually hook up one of the track rides to go down there. There is a track ride that has the old-fashioned looking cars, so we may set that up to make it look like they're driving in and out of there. The only problem with that is obviously they are old and fashioned looking cars, and an old-fashioned car wouldn't really be in the same era as one that has electric gates to close the car park underneath the factory. So it swings and roundabouts because we obviously don't have modern looking track rides, so it's just something we have to deal with. If that's something that I want to do, I don't know whether I'm going to set up that track ride yet. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments whether you think I should do that or not, but there we go. So this is obviously an electric powered gate that can let people drive in and out of the car park that we have underneath here. I think it looks really nice. We actually hooked up a few lights to this as well. Originally I had it set up so the lights were red, but I realized after doing that the gates were actually opening, so we changed those lights to green to make it look a little bit more realistic. But yeah, there we go. We added some more details to the exterior of the building as well. We put some fences around that little area. Now the building that I added on the front of the office there, you should see that in a minute once we finish riding the coaster again. That little building there on the front is kind of like the entrance to the offices. So anyone that works in the factory offices, this is obviously the entrance that they would use to get into work every day. And it's kind of like a little place where if you're visiting the factory for whatever reason, this is kind of the entrance that you would use. I guess you could say it's kind of like the entrance to a school, that kind of little building that your parents will go through if they have to have a meeting with a teacher or whatever. That kind of style building, just like the main entrance to the factory there. So just designing that right now. Trying to find a door for this kind of thing is a nightmare, especially seeing as we only have like I think 30 doors or something like that. It's the same with the windows, like doing windows and doors for something that you're not really expected to build in this kind of game. Like who would have thought that someone would be building a factory? So you kind of have to make your own windows and doors by using other pieces at this point when you want stuff to fit in, which is really nice. That's what I love about this game. If you don't like the stuff that's given to you standard in the game, you can edit, modify, and make it work for you. And that's kind of what I had to do with a lot of the stuff that was in this factory itself. So the windows and the doors, I had to kind of merge a lot of windows and a lot of doors together to make them look the way I wanted them to look. Especially later on in the series, you'll see me using the staff door that's given to us in game. It's a really nice looking door, but the color scheme on it, obviously you can't edit the color scheme, so I did have to kind of add stuff to that door to make it fit. But I like the fact that it has the little touch pin thing, so people can get in and out if they know the code to the door. So we use that door quite a bit in a later episode. I think we may actually use it in the end of this episode today, but yeah, there's a lot of editing I had to do with that door to get it to fit into the aesthetics of this building. So that's just what I really love about Planet Coaster. You can merge items together, which is kind of rare when it comes to video games. Clipping is a real big issue with a lot of games, and they don't usually let you do that. So to be able to do that is really great. So just add in the final touches to the backside of this office building right here. So obviously we had to get these windows on the backside of this building. We didn't want to just leave this open with no windows because that would look really strange from the car park. Now I must add that this building looks fantastic from the car park. If you go low down to where the cars are parked in the car park just behind this building and look up at this factory, which is the view you would get when entering this park if this was in real life. Man, it just looks awesome. It looks so great. I'm so happy that this is the place I chose to place this. Obviously we had the whole park and I chose to put it here, and I'm really happy I did because it looks fantastic. When you walk into the park, just coming in and seeing this straight away glooming over you as you walk into the park, it's really quite something to see. So I was really happy that I decided to actually add this to this section of the park there right towards the entrance. So but yeah, we're getting pretty much to the end of today's episode. The last thing that we build today is the chimney stack. Now people were asking in the stream for a long time, are you going to build a chimney? Can you build a chimney? And I wasn't too sure whether it was going to be possible because obviously chimneys usually start out quite thick towards the base, and then as they get taller they get skinnier and skinnier and skinnier, and then obviously at the top they have the little piece and then the steam or the smoke comes out the top. So it was quite tricky. Obviously I didn't have any pieces that would do that, so I had to just use these pillar pieces here. Obviously they don't get smaller towards the top, but I think the overall design of this chimney stack, once it's complete, you obviously know what it is going to be. You know what it's supposed to be, so it worked out quite nicely, and I'm happy with the overall design of this chimney stack. We get some smoke effects coming out of the top of this as well, so it does look really quite nice, and I'm happy with the way that this turned out, and it really does add to the factory design, the overall design of the factory, sorry. And I think it works out quite nicely, so I'm happy that I actually decided to work on this and listened to the stream when they were asking me to put this together, because like I said, I wasn't really too sure whether this was going to work out, but in the end it did, so I'm really quite happy that I decided to put this together. So here you go, there's the chimney, and we are just about to go place that over in the bottom right hand corner of the factory here. Now it does take me a few attempts to actually get this placed into its final location, but you can see what it looks like and you can see what it's gonna feel like once it's attached to the side of the factory here. So yeah, that is pretty much it for episode 3 of the factory build. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's episode. Now in the next episode we are going to be working extensively on triggers, so we're going to be getting a light display going on the exterior of the building with the triggers, and start working on that a lot in the next episode. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode. I know I've been rambling along for quite a long time in this episode, repeating the same stuff over and over again, but yeah, pretty much all we got done today was the windows. But like I said, windows in this building really kind of work quite nicely, so I'm glad I got those windows complete. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. If you did, smash a like, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and of course I will see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Bye.